Happy Friday and welcome back to this episode. In this episode, I want to share with you something that literally, and I'm not exaggerating, changed the whole dynamic of my relationship with my partner recently. When I'm saying recently, I'm talking last week, like not even last week, I think it was this week. I want to share a technology that I have developed for myself to coach myself through a difficult time. This technology is life-changing, and this is literally my biggest desire for every woman in this planet. This is how strong it is. So yeah, if I get passionate about it, like, ooh, yes, we want this, we want that. I've done a 3-step thing recently because I felt disconnected from my partner. I felt really, really hurt since the birth of our baby. A lot of the dynamic has changed. It has been extremely challenging for the relationship. I think it's not new. Like every couple I've heard are going through some kind of thing with the arrival of a baby. It's a big change. But what I have felt personally is not being fully respected and not getting the same admiration that he used to have for me and the same kind of respect I felt really taken granted for, which is an awful feeling if you're a partner. It's not good to feel that. And I'm not here to blame or shame or, we worked through our thing. And the way I worked through that and that now, it has completely shifted the dynamic. And it also has shifted the dynamic in my business, in like my passion, in the way I want to show up. It has also shifted my relationship to my daily life, how I want to take care of myself. Like this technology is fucking powerful and I cannot gatekeep it. I need to share it with you and please use it, make it your own. It's very nice. This technology, I called it being the gatekeeper of your garden. I'm going to get into more details, but I also want to share that it's a 3-step thing that I've done because I felt like I've been so not confident lately that it has been a mirror. I always hold on to a belief that I have, that is that relationships, especially romantic partnership, are a mirror. So they are a mirror in many, many ways. The way I felt in my relationship was both the way I treat myself, like the way he was treating me was in fact the way I was treating myself. And also it's a mirror in a way that the way I feel treated poorly is probably how I treat him as well. There is this constant mirroring process. This is where I had to develop a technology to coach myself through that. The technology that I have developed by taking myself out there. I took myself on a walk around the block, like in the fields, and I talked to myself out loud. I must have, really looked like a crazy woman, but I am. So who cares? Is that process of being the gatekeeper, the gardener of my garden, the gatekeeper of my garden. Basically, I realized, I know relationships are a mirror. So where is it that I'm treating myself poorly if I feel treated poorly by my partner? If I feel like he doesn't fully respect me, he doesn't see my beauty, and he doesn't admire me as he used to, where am I doing that to myself? And I went through this deep emotional alchemy within myself. And when I closed my eyes, placed a hand on my heart, I was like, you know what? I have a garden. I have this. I'm a very visual person. That's how I love to teach my clients and my students as well. And that's what I'm going to keep bringing to the podcast. I want to bring you in my visions. The vision is very clear in my mind. This garden is so clear in my mind. I see exactly how it is. Where are the things? I have fruits. I have flowers. I have flowers of all colors and size and different species of flowers. I have fruits, delicious food. I also have a few weeds. I have to say, I have a few weeds that are not so beautiful, that are a bit nasty to the rest of the flowers, but that's part of the garden. There's also a whole space in my garden that is not fully there is nothing yet. Like I have a lot of things to still grow and plant, and whoa, this is so exciting. And so I realized, well, this whole time I've allowed people to come into my garden. And in this, I'm speaking relationally, with heavy, dirty boots, and to tear down the flowers, to really mistreat the garden. And what I would have done in the past, if someone comes with heavy boots and destroy my garden, I would have been like, you know what? I'm going to destroy the garden with you. I'm going to shut it all down. I'm going to close it entirely. And it would completely destroy the beautiful flowers. The beautiful flowers are my kindness, my spirituality, my sexuality, my touch, my kisses, my presence, my listening, my wisdom, my understanding, my devotion, my commitment, like all the beautiful things inside of me, all of my qualities, all of the little gems I have inside of me. They are my flowers. And I'm so happy. I'm someone who loves to share my flowers. It's so innocent. I love to love. I love to connect. I love to give my best to people, which, spoiler alert, this is not always what I do. But because sometimes I'm mistaken a flower for a weed and a weed for a flower. But I love to share. So I invite people into my garden so that they can taste the fruits and enjoy the beautiful scent and fragrance of the garden and all the beautiful flavors and spices. I have spices, of course, in my garden. I have a lot of spices. So this image was a way for me to physically in my head, in the vision, be with my flowers and to bring a sense of self-love that I haven't been able to access in a very long time. And it's not if I do affirmations in the mirror of like, I love myself. That doesn't work for me. Self-love is not accessed like that for me. When I take care of myself, it's not that either. Like, of course, when I tap into more self-love, I do want to care better about myself. So I self-care a lot more. But this self-love is hard sometimes to access, especially for me. I'm such a perfectionist. I'm so hard with myself. And I'm also in a place in my life, maybe you will relate to that, but I'm in a place of my life where I'm not fully in expansion. And I know I'm not like at my full potential. And especially lately, I don't know what the fuck happened to me, what bug in the system, but I've been complaining a bit more. I've been very judgmental, very criticizing of just anyone around me, like just always having something to say about the businesses of others instead of looking into my own business. But I was looking also a lot in my own business, to be fair. But I've been just not really proud of myself. So self-love is even harder to, to connect with. And I've developed this other technology, which is the KVRT. I call it KVRT because it sounds like caviar and tea, like the caviar, the little fancy eggs of the fish that you eat when you are like rich, and and the tea, like the tea you drink. But it's actually the letters KVRT, which stands for know, validate, respect, and trust. And I believe this is the exact process we need to follow to find self-love, which is know yourself, know what you're experiencing, like bring the awareness, then validate it, validate yourself, validate your experience, validate your taste, validate who you are, then respect it, respect yourself, do the things you say you're going to do, show respect to yourself, and then trust yourself. I think this is all the component of self-love because I shared it in the reel recently. If you don't follow me on Instagram, go ahead. Join me there. I shared it in the reel. Like, self-love doesn't mean shit anymore. Everyone is talking about self-love, but it's a very distant concept for a lot of people. So all of this has been a bit trickier for me to access lately because it's not linear. It always fluctuates. My self-love always fluctuates. Some period of my time, I feel very confident in so many areas of my life, and I feel full of self-love, self-care, connected to me. I respect my flowers. I water my garden. I have all the fertilizer in the world, and it's joyful, it's great. And sometimes I'm just digging and digging into the weeds and trying to remove them, but I don't have the right process or the right chemicals to remove them from my garden. So they grow back, and sometimes they grow back even stronger. What the fuck? So I'm in my shit, I'm in my shadows. I'm in the things that I don't really like about myself, and it's harder to turn my head and realize, oh, yes, those weeds are part of the garden, but I also have all those beautiful flowers, and I almost forgot about them. I forgot they existed just because I was focused on that one task of, removing the weeds of the garden. And so my invitation is that in this podcast, I want to invite you to be the gatekeeper of your garden. And yet another technology in my work is building a big fat fence. So you have your garden and you're building a big fat fence. The big fat fence represents all of your boundaries and your values, so that not just anyone can come into the garden with their heavy, disgusting boots and lack of appreciation for your garden. This is harder to do and to put in place because we live in a society where everyone told you, like, oh, you have to be pretty, you have to be kind, you have to be sensual for everyone else. But no one told you, hey, your softness, your understanding, your wisdom, your politeness, your vulnerability, like those are parts of your qualities, of your flowers, of what's beautiful about you. So you don't get to just let anyone have it. You're allowed to be rude to someone who wouldn't respect that. Not everyone deserves your kindness, your thoughts, your presence, your kisses, your touch. Like those are precious. You have a unique brand of flowers that is unique to your garden. And if they want to find it somewhere else, they go to another garden. But what you have in your garden is unique to you, and it's precious and it's beautiful. And that's the message I want you to really understand today, because I tend to forget so many times the beauty of my garden. And I want you to remember the beauty of your garden. So I was in need to travel back to my garden, to tend back to my garden, to provide for me what I needed, which also helped me to have more compassion for the person, like my husband, my partner. He's not my husband yet. My amazing baby daddy, amazing partner. He has a badge to enter the garden as much as he wants because I allow him. Most people are outside of the big fat fence. They can look through because I'm not going to shut down the garden for people. Like, of course they can observe the flower. Like, watch the flowers. Watch me radiate. Watch me being free and all the beauty that I have. Like, watch my beauty. But you don't have to get access to it, right? But my husband, he can have access to it. No problem. Like, I gave him the code to enter it anytime. It's open 24/7 for him. And maybe that was the problem. I decided I needed a bit of, opening hours so that I could also tend to my garden on my own. Because we've been living with the baby since she was born, which she's 5 months old. And it's a choice that I'm so proud of us for making. But it's also challenging to always be at home, just the three of us, and tending to the baby as a couple and having way less time for ourselves and all the things. That's not the topic. That is not the topic of today. The topic of today is being the gatekeeper of your garden. So my husband has a badge. He can enter it. But lately, because of his own garden, oh my God, there have been some storms in his garden. So I totally understand and don't blame him for having heavy, dirty boots. He has a lot of mud because it's been raining a lot in his garden. The transition to fatherhood, the pressure, the financial pressure he may have feel, the pressure from conflicts he has experienced lately, the pressure of the relationship dynamic changing, like just he was in a storm in his garden, poor thing. And he came to my garden, and I can understand that you come and you have those heavy like slippery boots because they are full of mud. I can understand that you trip and fall and destroy your few flowers. It's normal. It's part of life. I know you don't do it on purpose. We're going to go in each other's gardens, all of us, and sometimes step, on the wrong thing. And it doesn't mean we want to tear down the garden, but we're going to be a bit, how do you say, clumsy. We're going to be clumsy. So I can understand that you're clumsy with me, but if you're too clumsy for too long in my garden, you start to destroy a bit too much and to even take it for granted, like you're coming into my garden, you're eating the fruits, and you're not even saying thank you, or you're not saying like, oh, this flower, like this garden, I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for opening the door. Thank you for letting me have a badge where I can come in anytime to this beautiful garden and be nourished and feel the love that you poured into your garden. So this is where sometimes we need the big fat fence to know, like all the people are outside this fence. It doesn't mean I'm going to be like a grumpy, mean person. Like, oh, you cannot see the garden. Like, you can see through the gate. But this gate is fucking strong. And my goal in life is to make this big fat fence as strong as possible. My boundaries, my values as strong as possible. So I know and I always respect my flowers. This also took another form. If I want to bring another metaphor, I really felt like there were a dialogue between my higher self and my younger self. And my younger self was the one who was hurt and struggling. And she was feeling a lot of emotions. She wanted to point fingers and blame and shame. And I needed her to be able to express that part. And so it was almost a conversation, a dialogue. And first I needed to let it out from my younger self. When I say younger self, I actually meant inner child, my inner wounded child, the poor little thing in me. And then I had my higher self. That's why I love to play with archetypes and I love this work of embodiment because I get to embody both. I get to switch positions so that I can like coach myself and be there for myself. And so my inner child needed my mother's self to take care of her. I needed to protect her and to make her feel seen and safe and valued, because that's all the things I was trying to get out of my partner in a time where he couldn't provide that. He usually does, and that's why I love him, and that's why we're together. We provide that constantly for each other. But in times where you are both in the storm, like both partners needs to tend to their garden because like it's a mess everywhere, So I had to really come back and protect my inner child with my mother's self and to see the value, to see my value, to honor the beautiful things about me, my qualities. Like I'm kind and I'm full of wisdom and I love to help and I do so many things around the house. And my body, my sensuality, like all of that, it has so much value. And all this wisdom and who I am today, it was not like my garden was not just gifted to me. Like, of course, I inherited some of the seeds that I planted in my garden, but a lot of those are seeds that I had to earn. Plants that took me years to grow, flowers that are exotic and were really, really hard to make thrive, So with that analogy, with that metaphor, my invitation is to realize what is your garden and build that fucking big fat fence. This is 2 technologies that I love. It's important. It's what gonna make you thrive in relationships. But as I said in the beginning, it impacted the way I work too. I received some unsolicited advice around how I run my business and why I haven't been successful in the way I want to yet. And I was the keeper of my garden. I was like, you're not going to come into my business, into my garden and tell me that what I'm doing is shit and that because you have that in your garden and this flower is better. I was like, no. I don't want what you have. My garden is perfect the way it is. And I want to keep on growing the flowers that I enjoy. I'm not going to grow someone else's flowers. Okay? So the second step is the compassion part. I felt like he was lacking compassion for me so much. And that's why I had to self-source, and I had to make myself feel seen and feel compassion for the pain. And I mean, the transition into motherhood is not nothing. And add to that so many other things, the frustration of a business that still doesn't grow and work the way I want, less time for myself, a body that I feel foreign into, that I'm constantly judging because, oh my God, gained 60 pounds, 30 kilos during pregnancy. And I obviously, thankfully lost 12 kilos of them. But still, I feel heavier. I feel not as beautiful as I used to when I look in the mirror. And I'm also under the financial pressure. I'm also in the pressure of being in an environment that I'm not feeling good here in France. I can't wait to pack my suitcase again and go. And, I sound super complaining right now, but I just want to share the real truth that life isn't perfect, and it's never perfect, even when you have beautiful things going on. But I feel like I was not seen in my own pain, in how I'm still healing from birth and from carrying a child in me for 9 months. That was a deep, profound initiation that if you've not been through, you don't know. And it's so personal as well. No two pregnancy or birth stories are the same. So I had to show myself that compassion first. But as I said, we are mirrors to each other. So I also had to look at, okay, if I'm needing compassion so much, where am I not giving him compassion? And I realized that I was so deep in my own pain, I couldn't even see his, how hard it's been for him. And I've done this one morning. I just felt the frustration and the tension in my heart and the pain. And I was like, okay, let me go journal. And I journaled for a whole hour. I think I was writing pages after pages of just feeling his pain, connecting to his pain and feeling compassion for him. I didn't say anything to him. We didn't have a conversation. I had to do this work energetically for myself. And suddenly my heart opened again, because of course when I'm blaming, shaming, or feeling hurt by someone, I have this tendency of closing down my heart. And I believe the true love path is to keep opening your heart, even and especially when it wants to close. So I had to do that work, and that was super healing to really, really not just understand it, because of course I understand with my mind, and I know that he's been struggling with his own thing, and we always as human beings have some stuff going on. But I had to feel I cried writing this down on paper, because I had to tap into his pain to really have the deepest compassion. It's not just, I had understanding, I didn't have full compassion. And there is a gap between understanding something and feeling compassion for. So anyway, the last piece of this episode, and would have transformed the dynamic between us and the dynamic with myself, and just how proud I am of myself lately, is vulnerability. And it sounds so cheesy like that, and of course I stand for vulnerability, but even when you're trying to say something vulnerable, I believe there is always a deeper layer of vulnerability hidden somewhere. I believe vulnerability is infinite. Getting naked, your heart naked in front of someone, is infinite. You can always go deeper. You can always have more intimacy. This is a profound belief of mine, and sometimes I just don't see it. I wonder, okay, I'm being the most vulnerable I am right now. I cannot be more vulnerable, and there's always layers. So we had to have a conversation, and with parenthood, the baby, the busyness, the stressors of life, we haven't been able to have the quality of communication that we used to have. Something I've said always with this relationship in particular is that every single conflict, no matter how hard it was, it always brought us closer together. And when I say closer together, I don't mean it just superficially. It really, every conflict was hard and painful. And then in the resolution, in the repair of that conflict, we reached always a new level, a new level of intimacy, a new level of understanding for each other, a new level of compassion, a new level of relating. And the quality of our relationship always got better after those conflicts. We barely had the same conflict twice. And we have always grown from those conflicts. So not having the quality of communication that we used to have was also something really painful for both of us. I felt like we couldn't quite communicate anymore. Like, it was hard to get to him, and no matter how I was trying to just express my pain, I felt like he could only hear criticism, and I couldn't hear much either. Like, it was just weird. Like, I don't know, I was very frustrated about that, and I also was surprised because I thought, that is not something we're gonna experience, like it was not good. And so I was like, okay, it's gonna require a lot of me, but I'm gonna go to the depth of my heart. Really, I'm talking French now. It shows just how my true nature is coming through. I had to literally put a frame on the conversation. I told him, I need I really want to express some things, and I want 3 things from you. I want to know it's the right timing. I want to know that, you're not too tired or waking up or stressed about something. I want that you have space to actually receive it. I want compassion from you, and I want safety. Like, I really want to know that if I express something, you're not going to get mad. You're not going to hurt me back because you hear things in a way that might be hurtful or hard to hear. I need to know that I'm safe emotionally with you. And if you're not allowed to fulfill or offer those 3 things that I need for this conversation, then it's okay. I can either write a letter, we can talk about it later, we will find out. So I had to put that frame. Then I had to also reassure him, like reassure the relationship. Like I said, I love you. This is not a threat to the relationship. And I think as soon as someone opens up like this for me, this is what I love to receive. Like, if someone is like, okay, I really want to share something with you, I'm a bit frustrated, upset, or whatever, like, even before they get into it, they're like, just know that I love you. And if I know that I'm loved and that I'm not threatened, the connection is not threatened, then I can be in a much more open and receiving space where I'm like, okay, tell me. I'm in active listening right now. So I reassured him, and then I also made him feel seen. So I voiced all of that compassion I felt for him, so he could be even more receptive to what I was sharing. And I expressed my pain. And to do that, it was so hard because we haven't had this kind of deep, hard conversation in a long time. I had to hold his hand and tell him, well, I'm a bit stressed. I don't know how to do it. It's very vulnerable. So I'm going to hold your hand and I'm going to close your eyes and hold my heart so that I can go and find the deepest truth in my heart and not change, to find the words that were the closest to truth in my heart. So I close my eyes and I go, and I literally see a little mini me going to the heart of my heart, the deepest place of me. And I expressed exactly how I felt without, without the little switch and changes of words that sometimes you can do for someone to understand you better. I said it as I felt it, and I felt like I was honoring my garden, honoring my inner child, in honoring like my feelings, validating my feelings. And I validated his before, and now it was my time to validate me. So it was a work in a relationship, but that was also a work with me, for me. And I don't say that just to brag and to be like, hey, look at my communication skills. It's something that has been extremely hard for me. I come from a family where we don't talk, we don't repair, we feel conflicts. Conflicts often means the end of the relationship. So many people in my family, they don't talk to each other anymore after one conflict. Like, I don't know what it is to grow up with like a safe attachment style, like a safe and secure attachment style. And it's things that I had to develop. And I also want to share it with you if you ever struggling with that, to know that first of all, you're not alone. And it's something you can work on and become better at it. And also you're going to have your higher self clapping for you. Like, it's so easy to in the daily life, when you're upset, when you're stressed, when you're busy, when everything, it's so easy to go back to the default of saying something a bit more superficial and going to the heart of my heart, really to the depth of myself. And oh, that was like real vulnerability. Like you feel scared. You feel like you're going to die. You feel so naked, even to the partner who's seen literally everything of you. My husband, so my daughter coming out of my vagina, like he knows everything about me. He's seen me like crying, laughing, pooping, giving birth, like, and still like showing the depth of your heart and your hurt is something that can be so vulnerable and so hard. So sometimes it's easy to default to something else that is a bit higher, like I want to say like surface level. Doesn't mean like it's superficial or actually surface level, but it's not as deep as the deepest of the deepest heart of your heart. But when you go to the deepest heart of your heart, then your higher self is clapping for you, because like, oh bitch, you're living in alignment here, and you can be so proud of yourself. So I guess that's how I want to end this podcast this week. It was literally all of my technologies that I use to feel better and coach myself and coach my student and my clients as well, to like come back to themselves and build such a strong personal relationship to themselves and then to other people. And it's something that have changed the dynamic since then. Like I feel closer to him because we had this beautiful, sorry, I didn't tell you how it ended. Like he received me so well, and he acknowledged my feelings as well, and we could feel more and more compassion for each other and saying sorry. I was saying sorry for the things I did to him, the thing he did to me, and sharing just how much we value each other. And oh my God, the connection was so good. And we're going to have a full romantic weekend to celebrate this. So I'm very excited. So it ended really well, and that was very satisfying. But this is also something I wish for everyone, it's to master those skills even more. So I'm sharing all of my juiciest, most vulnerable tools, the technologies that I use to bring myself back home to my heart and to embody more love. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what are your thoughts. If that talked to you, I would be really excited and curious to know. And I talk to you next week.